Hey everyone, welcome back to Mom, You're Embarrassing Me. If you're just joining us, hit pause and go listen to part one of my conversation with Dayne Gingrich and Jill Martin. It's packed with mindset gold and, of course, plenty of laughs. Now, this is part two, and I'm going to be real with you. I've already used some of their mindset tips while I was competing recently in the USLPL Senior Pro Combine, and I was far from perfect and sometimes reverted back to old habits, but their tips seriously helped me quickly recenter and show up with a stronger mindset. Let's jump in. Part two starts now. Oh, and please don't forget, hit that subscribe button right down there and share this episode with your partner and friends because we all need a little help between the ears. It's not just me, I hope. Peace.
So, last thing about the book, you talked about the willingness to just forego to step away from chasing the wins. So, how do you, and I know you guys have another book that's coming up about partnerships. So, how do you recommend players find partners who are aligned with that mindset and not just obsessed with the scoreboard?
I think it's different for me than for Jill, so I'm gonna let Jill because I think she speaks to the larger community on it. And then
Right. Because I guess for you, it really is about, it'd be much harder to find people who are not chasing wins because at your level, you have to, or you're just not going to be playing at
we
that level
talk about
anymore.
it all the time. And she asked this question. We might have even posted it, or she posted it. Do you need to like your partner to play with that player? And like, I think for the amateur answer is different. And I think for the pro, at least for me, I don't have to like you, but I have to respect you. And that used to be my answer. Actually, I'm gonna actually back that off, and I'm gonna step back on that one. Before, it wasn't. I had to like we didn't have to go to lunch, go to dinner, have beer, but we had to respect each other's game. And then I had like on court performance things that if you check these off, and I'm sure my partners did too, right? And now that I've taken a break and I've stepped back, I've actually changed my answer. If we don't get along, we're not playing, and I don't care. I'm still going to try to pick the partner that I believe we can win gold with, but I won't do it at the expense of not enjoying my time on court with you, right? Like the last tournament at Newport, we talked about two brand new partners I'd never played with, Chris Headings and Sabrina. They're like, I actually told, I've never said it in my life on a court, in the middle of the heat of battle, we weren't killing it, we were in a tight match. In between serves, I was like, in between points, literally, as I was about to serve, I looked at him like, dude, man, I love you. Like, this is crazy. And he's like, man, I love you too. I'm like, wow. And he's a big old football player, wrestler, and free back. And I was like, later, I'm like, I can't even believe I just said that. There was no conscious thought. Like, I was actually, for the first time, really like enjoying the moment of the match, right? And I think that but I think for the amateurs, I think that's like I think a completely different answer.
I ask a lot of people this question, amateurs, and would you rather play with a 5-0 asshole or with a 4-5 who's supportive, or a 4-0 who's supportive, mixed partners especially. And most people say they would rather play with a supportive partner.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some some people who are like chasing those wins, and they'll be like, oh, I don't care how they trade, I don't care if they're an asshole, I want to win.
Right.
Okay, you can have that person. But I think you're right. And I don't know, Jill, what you found.
Well, I think about it in kind of two ways. There's this woman who I met, actually, she came out to work with Dayne. She's just incredible. She's like a 4 or 5 plus player. Her name's Julie Cobb, and her EQ is just off the charts. And she kind of taught me this idea that, I mean, it's really crazy that I'm 51 and this had never occurred to me before, but I'm a super analytical person. I'm like very logical. It's why like I kind of loved the law is that there's always an if and a then. And, I like putting things in outlines. And she kind of taught me this idea of paying attention to how you feel when you're with somebody rather than like how you line up. I think a lot of times as pickleball players, what we are looking for is like, we look at, are we the same skill? Obviously, you need to be the same range of skill, but do we have complementary skills? We're looking at this kind of like objective set of criteria. And sometimes even if our skills should match up, if we're not kind of in sync together on the court, it doesn't matter. And so for me, like when I'm picking partners now, like I used to partner with literally anyone because I just like to try things. And I like so many people off the court that I always kind of assumed that then I would like them on the court. That is just not true. I could love you off the court and maybe we don't do great on the court. court. And so I have to pay attention to how I feel on the court with someone, because for me, I know that that's what's going to make me play better or worse. So like one of
Yeah.
my all-time favorite partners is this guy, Vince, and we will frequently talk about like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm with my security blanket when I'm on the court with you. We just have this sense, like both of our central nervous systems, he feels that way when I'm on the court. I feel that like we're just very comfortable together. And
Yeah.
that brings us to a place where we play well together. But just from a more kind of like a less touchy feely answer, one of the things that's really interesting to me about pickleball, I listened to this podcast. I'm going to forget her name because I want to attribute this to her, but there's this woman who studies communication, and she talked about how you're going to go to a dinner party and maybe you'll spend a couple hours, like maybe it's a fancy dinner party, so you're going to plan out your outfit, you're going to plan out, maybe you'll do your hair, maybe you'll get your nails done, you'll do all these things, but you're not going to think at all about what are the things that you might talk about with somebody. Like the sense is that you should just be, that if it's like a good party or if it's a good relationship with somebody, that you don't have to put any thought into that part, that part's just going to take care of itself on its own. And I think in pickleball, there's like a similar thing. We think that that you should just be able to show up and figure each other out, that what you want is what they want, and that we don't actually spend any time talking to one another or contemplate using the time ahead of time to like ask one another questions or plan out how we're going to partner together. And I think especially sometimes between man people, there's like this thought that if we talk about that this like, it's like a soft or unuseful part of our communication. And I think really talking to somebody about what do you want on the court and how do I support you? This is how I want to be supported. Just kind of big questions. Nobody is having these conversations, which is bananas, because a lot of the things that go sideways, even in long-term partnerships, everybody has in their head, well, they should know that I don't like when they X, or like, but we don't. Like, and I did a partnership survey, and it is really crazy what people's triggers are. You just can't guess them. You cannot guess them. One guy really didn't like what do you don't like when somebody says, I don't like when somebody says, let's say his name was Joe, let's go, Joe. And I was like, oh my gosh, how would I ever know he didn't like to say, let's go, Joe? Like, thank God I've never told him, let's go, Joe. Because he hears that, he hears that as, you, Joe, need to step up your game. So he takes that
Yeah.
as, Joe, you're not doing well enough. And
Yeah.
so it's just talk to one another. And I think that even basic what are your goals, how do you like to be supported, all of these things are super fast conversations that we can have, and that I think that'll tell you a lot about whether you're a good match for one another.
I played a blind date with someone a couple of weeks ago, and I would say one more stop, or I would say something about, get this point. And she would only want me to say, win this point. I had to say it, win this point. And if I said it any other way, she would correct me.
Yeah.
And she would say, no, not that, win this point. I'm like, okay, win this point. Okay, win this point. And I was half the whole time, I'm like afraid to say anything because I don't want to say it right.
Yeah.
It was interesting. But I guess had we had that conversation before, I would have known, just don't say anything about points or one.
Well, and then part of that is that like she knows what she needs.
Yeah.
But it is also 100% okay for you to be like, oh, that's not a need I can meet. There's nothing wrong with her need. Like, that's great. It's great that she knows it. It's great that I know that me trying to meet this like very specific need is going to make me, like, I once had somebody, don't tell me I made a good shot, because then like, don't say something positive, because then I'm going to feel really a lot of pressure to do something good again. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then in my head, I'm like, I'm so used to trying to support my partner that I'm using 100% of my brain power to not be positive at all. Or I'm not going to tap your paddle. And then but that's okay. Like, it's okay that I can't play with that person and they can't play with me. But if we just kind of establish beforehand, then, and there's,
could have ruled her out already.
Yeah.
Or ruled him out. Yeah.
It just takes effort. This is the thing. And I don't think, to Jill's point, I don't think people think about how to communicate with their partner pre-match or the week before on a call or on their practice court, right? And I just think it takes a lot of time. I remember talking about Sabrina. We'd never played together. She's new in the senior pro. She's freaking amazing. Such a lovely human being, number one, and just such a joy to play with, number two. But she drove down to Santa Barbara, a few hours to play rec, and we did it twice before the tournament. And before we stepped on the court, before any of our opponents got there, we had that discussion. Like, how
Mm.
do you like to be talked to, and how do you like to be communicated? When things are down, what do you like? And
Mhm.
when things are up, how do you like it? And just FYI, Sabrina, and I have to do this specifically, especially with mixed partners. Just FYI, I'm going to look upset all the time. I am not upset. And I am never, ever angry with you ever. And Jill has really helped me understand that I probably need to communicate this, because I just take for granted, like, I'm not upset with
Yeah.
you, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just very, very intense.
Yeah.
So I had to have this conversation with her, and like, if you miss or I miss, and you're gonna see the scowl, it's not anger, it's my intensity, and it's my focus for the
Yeah.
next point. And she had a visible, like, okay, good.
Yeah.
Like, she was holding in. She had seen me play. She had been holding in. Oh my gosh, she's gonna be mad. Like, and that's but because we had that conversation, and she shared some things about her game, we were both like, oh my god, like,
I've actually been holding my breath as you were saying. That's because I've been in those situations. And then as soon as you said that, I felt myself relax too.
yes,
So it doesn't, yeah, that is.
yes.
Are you going to put specific questions, like an outline of things? Okay, these are the things that you should be discussing with your partner. And here's the questions that the things that you need. Are you going to be giving that information to us in book two?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we're not. We're gonna have GIFs. It's just gonna be partner GIFs the
I
whole
like
time.
Yeah,
that might
for
be
sure.
easy.
And we haven't totally decided, but like kind of the way that I envision it is that because I think everybody's different in the amount of granularity that they want. So I
Right.
think of it as like if there's three things, if you're going to discuss three things, at least hit these three. But then
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
people, like this woman, Maggie Murch, and I were going to partner. We both like granularity. So we're more willing to discuss. So I think of like big picture. And then if you want to kind of branch off more, because
Yeah. Yeah.
I see a lot. I'm kind of more and more convinced that one thing, maybe particularly in mixed, but maybe both, that people should potentially cover is how do you want to handle it? What kind of language do you want to use if one person is being targeted and one person's being iced out? Because
Yeah.
I see that's,
Yeah.
first of all, that's a strategy that's going to happen in tournaments. It should. I mean, we should be trying to identify where a weaker player or weaker spot is, and a lot of partnerships fall apart in those moments because we don't know what the other person wants. And so some people hate, like, for example, for me, I don't find it helpful for my partner to be like, okay, so you're being targeted, and
Thanks.
Like, thanks
Like,
a
I
lot. So
didn't
you're
know that.
saying I suck and that you're good.
yeah. And that's really hard for me, and so like
Yeah.
it's better for, because I get really self-conscious. I go into like I'm letting my partner down, but then it's on knowing that about myself. It is now like, now the ball is in my court to let my partner know. So what's helpful for me is identifying spots instead of
Mm.
being like, I'm noticing that this is happening to you. Say like, hey, let's try this, or I'm gonna take some pressure off of you by squeezing middle more, like different.
Yeah.
So it's my responsibility, now that I know that this is a problem for me, it is now my responsibility to communicate to my partner, this is what helps me when we're in these situations.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
But it takes
Uh,
work. It takes intention,
yeah. It
right?
takes
It
work
takes
and then,
intention.
right.
Yep.
And thought. You have to think of it that
Yep.
way in midpoint or during the game. So you talked, Jill, at the clinic. We're going to talk about the clinic because I loved it. I got so much out of it. It was fun. I know you didn't want us high-fiving when we left, but we were high-fiving. I mean, seriously, it was awesome. And it definitely was, having to rethink and just retrain my brain. I know I have a lot of work to do and it's not going to be an overnight thing, but I walked away excited to try these things out and to just start looking more at the patterns and what's happening on the other side of the court and not always just be internally looking at myself. And so you talked about, Jill, about vulnerability on the court, or maybe it was with partnerships. And I wrote a blog post about vulnerability recently. And so I was hoping you could share more about why you think vulnerability is a strength for pickleball players.
Oh, I think maybe in the clinic this came up in the context of It's really interesting at clinics. So our best clinics, we've now done, I don't know how many times we've done it, maybe
Many,
let's
many,
say
many.
over 30 times. So it's really, really clear. All of the clinics I think are valuable, but there's some clinics that like we walk away with and we're like, oh my gosh, that was just like incredible. And it doesn't have anything to do with what we've done. It has nothing, I mean, we modify every clinic a little bit based on what's happening, but we're essentially kind of who we are no matter what. But the best clinics are the clinics where people are willing to be vulnerable in terms of what's happening to them in the clinic and the questions that they have. So I think it's a tall order because I do think that it's challenging to come to a clinic. If you follow Dayne, you want to perform well for Dayne, or you don't know the other people in the clinic. Nobody wants to be the worst person in the clinic. Everybody wants to perform well. And so that sometimes will lead people to get like quiet and shut down more. And they want to basically, what they're looking for is the idea of we're going to open the top of their head and pour information into their head. And I think the best clinics are those that are like a dialogue of this is what's happening. These are the things I'm struggling with, because it turns out like we're all struggling with the same stuff. Maybe we use different language with it, but essentially humans just aren't as diverse as we all think we are. We tend to all struggle with similar things. And when people are willing to open their hands and say, this is what's happening for me, or I don't understand this, that's what makes a good clinic. And I suspect that that probably could work with a partnership in terms of, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I need your support around this, or this is what I need. And it's funny, people have a tough time doing that, because I think that one, we don't want to feel like we're being a drag on the partnership, or we want to show up tough. But I think that part of toughness, like part of being tough, is like being willing to connect with your partner and kind of discuss with them, these are the ways that I need support or assistance.
Yeah. And I think you're right. We needed to be vulnerable with our partners yesterday, but also with our opponents, because they were telling us what we needed to work on. And if we weren't open to that and just being, and I think, Dayne, you described that and our own mistakes as almost being gifts.
Right. Yes. So when you're, and Jill talks about it all the time as well, in her own experience, this happened. Right? I think when, especially in these clinics, this is what makes, them a little different. It's not us just like, do this because we said so and you have to. And if you don't, like, it is definitely an exchange of information. And as Jill said, we modify all the time. You don't know we're modifying, right? But we're modifying all the time based on what's happening on the court. Like last second, I'm changing a drill that I had prepared 40 minutes ago because of what we just saw in maybe some of the games we were playing, right? And I think part of the clinic, as you said, is always coming to the net during a drill or even during a real game and discussing what's happening on the court with your opponents and what you see about your opponents and what your opponents see about you. And ultimately what they're saying is like, and everybody was very tactful. Everybody had high communication skills. So it wasn't like you suck here. It was like, you're doing really well here. Maybe you're a little vulnerable to the spot here. So taking that information, and you have two choices when you've taken that information from your opponents. You could say, well, I suck, or screw you, or whatever, or you could take it back home and actually, as Jill says, use it as a gift. That's the best gift someone could give you, because now you have an opportunity, like a real opportunity, not just a made up, maybe I don't know. They've all told you. Everybody has told you you're a little weak here, or when we do this, we can now expose you here. Go home and train those exact things, probably more than the things you do well in this moment, right? And so, keep with your superpowers and always work on those, obviously, but the gift is in knowing that you have an opportunity to take what they told you about your game and really make a dramatic improvement on it.
Yeah, the biggest bumps in my game that I've ever had have come from when I've learned what the game plan is against me. And and I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. It's been really hard. I personally find it hard to hear the game plan against me, because I like to be good at all the things,
Yeah.
and but it's been super empowering because then I know exactly what I need to work on, and it changes. It changes over time, you know. So like as it should. If you're
Yeah.
starting to close the gaps, then they're going to find another gap. And so I think that if it's really hard for two reasons, I think to get this information from people. One, we're all competitive. We all play against the same people in town often, right? And
Hmm.
so it's like we're not going to trade our game plans because those are our game plans, right? And so we're not going to
Right.
tell the person this is what I do against you. You know, if you start watching carefully, you can tell what people do against you, but you have to be watching. And then also, it's kind of socially unacceptable unless you're asking the question. It's like not a socially acceptable thing to come over and be like, you know what, I noticed that you're just like pretty bad on that right shoulder. You know,
Yeah.
but like that's why like invite somebody to say, you know, if you're working on I feel like the situations in which people are most willing to do it is if you are with your partner that you're about to play a tournament with, you ask somebody to
Hmm.
help you prepare for the tournament. And then at the end or the middle, so that you can start to make the adjustment, or towards the beginning, like, what's your game plan against us? You know,
Yeah.
that's an area where people, but you have to ask the question because
We've done that. Yeah.
otherwise most people won't offer it up for good reasons, because
Right.
we should not run around uninvited telling people what they're not good at, like
Right.
that should not be the takeaway of this. Like
Right.
go offer your unsolicited opinion of, but like ask, invite the feedback if you're ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we do those types of drill sessions, then we're exchanging information. But I don't want you to talk to me about any of my shortcomings moving forward, but only when I'm asking for it in this situation.
Yeah,
But
exactly. Exactly.
otherwise keep it to yourself. No, I feel like it really helps. And I think it helps build mental toughness as well as strategy, because I mean, you're being criticized a little
Yeah.
bit, right? So
Yeah.
you're taking that criticism and you can learn from it, and you can, work on those things and take it as, like you said, as a gift,
Right.
Jill. And
It also trains the micro muscle of what happens in real life in a match. Like in a match, your opponents essentially are telling you by
telling
their
you,
actions what they
right,
see about you. And so,
right.
yeah, so in that moment, I know what and you can either be pissed off that he keeps hitting the spot, or I can't believe how bad I am at the spot, or you can make the adjustment in real time to thwart his counter. So at the higher levels you climb, I adjust, you readjust. I readjust to your adjustment, and he re like, and so then it just keeps going back and forth, right? And like we
Right.
always say in the clinic, whoever adjusts best last wins,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And usually, a good match in pickleball, because we're going to 11, it's going to be 11-9, 11-8, 12-10. There are no 11 O's, 11 zeros, 11 ones, and 11 twos, and there should never be the
Hmm.
expectation that you should win like that, right? And so
Hmm.
you should always be focusing on, instead of I'm going to blow this team out, because that is unrealistic in pickleball, no matter what your level is, unless you're a 6-0 playing against a 2-0, 11-0, 11-1, 11-2 is ridiculous. You should
Hmm.
be giving yourself grace and patience to find a spot, adjust. They're going to adjust, you readjust. And that's why if I'm a 5-5, if I'm a 4-5 and you're a 4-2, I should not be expected to beat you 11-0. That's not how the
Hmm.
game is played. You're going to get a couple like, if like, you know what I mean? So like this adjustment to
Yeah.
the readjustment, that's where our brain should be going, and training ourselves to look at what he or she is doing, and instead of taking it personally, be competitive about it. Oh, I know what
Yeah.
you're doing. That's not going to happen today, and I'm going to do this. And then he does the same thing. That's the puzzle that I am so
Yeah.
infinitely fascinated with on a personal level, and then sharing it the best we can in our clinics.
Yeah. Well, just me shifting my focus from myself to observing my opponents was like a light bulb moment for me during the clinic.
Right.
And I think it changed how I thought about strategy, but it also helped calm my nerves a little bit. And when I started putting it back on me is when I found I was started making more errors.
Right.
And when I kept the focus um, on my opponents and looking for their weaknesses or looking for their patterns, and then trying to, like you said, it's a chess match,
Right.
right? Looking, okay, they do this when I do this, so I need to not do this, or we need to,
Right.
um,
The brain,
and
the brain has an amazing way of, if you're intentional about your strategy and your spots and what your opponents are doing, if you're intentional there, your brain won't do paddle angle, grip pressure, blah. But you have to choose one. You can't do both at the same time. So if we
Right.
don't choose intention on the other side of the net, the brain will default to paddle angle and all the things because it's trying to protect you from missing. Like that,
Mm,
it's not purposely trying to screw you up, but it thinks that if I focus you on what you're technically supposed to do, you'll do it better. But what it doesn't
yeah.
realize is in athletic performance, you do worse. So
Yeah.
knowing that, and this is the big push and pull between coaching and playing, and when you're playing, well, if I, the only way I can make a dink the way I want to make a dink is to tell myself to do this with my paddle. And that's completely incorrect, right? There might be
Hmm.
moments of that when you're drilling. There are times where you're micro focusing on things, but when we're competing, it's all about the other spot. And the brain has this incredible, magical way of aligning the intention with the technique that you need without even thinking about the technique that you need. And this is this is the science. Like, this isn't just a Dane opinion. This is actual fact that intention helps mechanics align to them. And that's ultimately what we're trying to convey in our, in our clinics, because we don't care how you get it done. We just want to help you get it done. And we know
Yeah.
that getting it done that way is way better than this way.
Right. Yeah. I know that you guys have some fun plans this afternoon, so I won't keep you too much longer, but I've been just like enjoying everything. But a couple of the ladies from yesterday have a couple questions. So I'll throw those out to you and then we will
Yeah.
close it up.
They're all to
Uh,
me, by the way, because they didn't really
yeah,
like Jill very much. The women do
that's
not
right.
like Jill ever. It's such an
I know.
interesting,
So
it's
Amy says, Jill,
yeah.
do you? All right. So Amy said that, well, she did say his. I found
Man.
his suggestion to watch opponents' fast hands during warm-ups with purpose really interesting and helpful. I know for me, sometimes watching the warm-up actually makes me nervous about my game, but changing the mindset of looking for their spots, I think will be very helpful. I also thought their suggestion to watch the opponents for several seconds before turning around to walk back after a good shot was a great suggestion. What would your suggestion for to both of you, if your opponents are gaining steam, how do you regroup?
Go,
Best way to regroup.
go ahead, Miss Martin.
Well, I think there's two answers, which is I think one, I mean, if it's rec, you can't call a timeout, but if it's a tournament, I think the first thing you do if somebody's going on a run, because it's a game of runs, it tends to be a game of runs where people just will go on these big 2 to 4 to 5 point runs, is to just stop, break the momentum, and then ask the first question is to try to figure out what is leading to. Okay, so when they're serving, one of the most important things, I think, because our brains can get overwhelmed if we try to get too much into the weeds, is the first question that I like to try to ask is which is interesting because a lot of people even at the higher levels aren't really starting to think about it yet, is are we having the right person take the third? And so oftentimes there'll be a pattern. I saw it a lot yesterday. One team went on a run. The returning team continued to give the same person the third, and it was creating a very, very, very favorable pattern because this person, their thirds were highly variable. So sometimes they drove line, and they were really good thirds. Sometimes they would run, sometimes they dropped cross court, but it wasn't allowing the other team to kind of like prepare themselves for the fourth shot as well. So I
Mhm.
just said, like, what would it be like just to try? We know this is all 4 or 5 plus. Nobody's gonna have a terrible third, but what if you just send it to the other person? So just recognizing, is so far there a pattern about like how they're making the run? And so sometimes that pattern is going to be on who's taking the third, sometimes it's going to be the fifth, but so start, sometimes, so are they liking the pace, are they liking off pace, starting to figure out what are the things that they're liking that we're giving them, because oftentimes what happens is we start to fall into the pattern of doing the thing that the other team loves. And so like yesterday we had a bunch of hard hitters, everybody liked to like really slug the ball, which is awesome. But if you love to slug the ball, but they're doing better at slugging the ball, then you cannot slug the ball anymore. Then it doesn't mean you have to be passive, but you have to change the pattern. So just like when there's a run, stop. What is the thing that is giving them the advantage right now, and trying to shift away from that advantage?
I mean, that's just very, very good advice, and it's the reason why we'll keep Jill in clinics. We were after yesterday thinking this might be her last run, but I think that's a really good answer. I think by definition we have to remember, like, when they go on a run, that means they're serving, right? And in today's pickleball 220, 2025 and beyond, usually, not always, but usually those runs are coming from drives and attacks and pushing the action, right? And a lot of teams, especially in the amateur, you see it on the pro level, but especially in the amateur level, they get overwhelmed. The return team gets overwhelmed by the pace coming at them, right? And so, first off, 100% right, we take a timeout. I think hopefully that's obvious, but it's kind of crazy how many players forget that they have 2 a game usually. So when we're in the timeout, I think it's instinctive to talk about us. What are we doing wrong? We need to do better. What are we? And that's not there yet. Like, what are they doing, right? Who is doing what to whom, as the old saying is, right? And so first realize, like to Jill's point, this player is driving hard. This player is crashing. We're having a hard time with this player's drive, right? And so the most challenging, we've seen this in other clinics too, when both players are driving really well, like, now who do you return to, right? So then in that timeout, we need to, instead of like trying to figure out how to get our service back and win points, we need to really be hyper focused on the most important shot in that point, which is our fourth, right? If assuming that both returners are driving really well, to Jill's point, if one is driving really well and the other is driving less well or is a dropper, we send it to the dropper every time. But if they're both driving well or we can't get it to the player we want, then we then tell each other, okay, our number one focus is our fourth, right? Even more than our return, because our return obviously doesn't really mattering a whole lot. So let's get our fourth down and see if we can make them reset and have to play pickleball with us, like old school shut it down pickleball, because in this situation the runs are happening because they're just attack, 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 attack. So it's a challenge, because if I don't want to dink, you can't do anything to make me dink. Like, unless you're, I mean, it is really hard. And today when we're playing with tennis rackets on our hand, essentially, right? But to Jill's point, like, who's doing what to whom? And if they're attacking, usually they're attacking. Let's focus on our fourth. And if they drive another one, if we can let it go, let it go. But then it's our sixth, and see if we can get it down on their feet and see if we can make them reset. And then let's shut them down. Let's bring them to the kitchen, all assuming they're winning these points before kitchen, right? Attack, 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 win, win. But we can go in crazy granular detail on all of this, but I think the timeout, and then what are they doing? Not what are we doing wrong?
Right.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Go ahead.
The more clinics that I watch at the higher level, and even like the I don't not the young pros. I don't actually watch a lot of young pro pickleball a lot, but like even the senior pro, if there's one takeaway that I think that people, the big runs now, I think with the paddles, now that we can generate more power from our paddles, are coming from huge serve, huge third. And so, like, what I think that means is that all of us have to go home and work on developing an aggressive serve, developing a big serve, and we have to be able to return an aggressive serve. So the patterns where we were getting, there was a very high level game yesterday. So everybody was probably, like 5-0 plus or close to 5-0. And it ended up being a very fast game because and it had nothing to do with one side being unskilled. Both sides were highly skilled, is that one team just did a better job of huge serve, huge third. And the other team were having a hard time shutting that down. So that means that their job is they need to go practice big returns to spots, so sometimes we can shut down huge thirds if we're returning it to the place where they can't take their huge third. What I see a lot is big serve. We then we're just getting our return back. That tends to be a shorter return, or to the person who has the huge third. And then that creates a highly unfavorable pattern. I mean, this has happened to me. These are my most frustrating losses. Like, one of the most frustrating losses I've ever had is I felt like, well, if I could have gotten them to the kitchen, I would have won. But I'm playing against a 6'3" dude who's crushing a serve at me. And then I'm like getting my return back. And then he's crushing the third up into my like neck, and then the
Yeah.
game's over. And so that means, so but that gives me incredibly good information. I have to now go find a drilling partner who's going to crush their serve at me and then crush their third at me, and I have to learn how to
Yeah.
deal with that. I have to get my fourth down. Maybe I have to get my fourth down and away, but like those are the things, like this is where the game is going. And like we still tend to spend a ton of time learning the kitchen, and it's like even at the higher levels nobody's getting to the kitchen.
Yeah, we can't get there.
I mean, it's nuts. I don't like the amateurs to necessarily build their game. You can learn from the Bens and the Alshans and the Annalie and Anna Brights. You can learn there's some foundational success principles, but like
Mhm.
you're not playing them, right? They're
Yeah.
highly skilled at getting to the kitchen, so they're getting there more than most amateurs. And even that level, they're getting there less than they used to. And even when they get there, the point constructions are totally different, especially in the female game where it's two dinks and let's go, right? Where the
Yeah.
men, the very top men, are so respectful of the hands that those tend to last a little longer. But the 5-0 and even 5-5 are not them. So these games
Yeah.
are not those games, right? You can
Right.
learn the discipline stuff and maybe this shot selection or that, but how to construct a point 5-5 and below, it's not them. You are
Yeah.
not getting to the kitchen anymore, like relatively
The
speaking,
game has
right?
changed so much.
Say
It
again.
just the game has changed so much. I've been playing about 4 years, so not a real long time. But with the paddles, you can just pick things up and speed things. So just like you guys talked about it yesterday, you can't dead dink everything anymore.
Nope.
No.
No, not no.
They're just gonna take it off the bounce, or you're just gonna, or you're just playing until someone makes an error,
Yeah.
dinks in that, which is
No.
yeah,
You
not
have
gonna
to
happen.
you have to be able to. So 2 years ago, I said you better be able to initiate or you're gonna get run over.
Yeah,
Now it's you better be able to counter or you're
yeah,
gonna get run over. And now, like a sub now, you better be able to do both. Unless your
yeah,
hands are outlier like JW, right? JW Johnson, like he doesn't have
yeah,
to speed up anything because he's got top 2 or 3 hands in the entire on the planet. But most of us
yeah,
don't have those hands. So
right,
you
right,
have to be able to do both because we always say, like in clinic, we said it, right? Two things are going to happen, guaranteed. Either you're going to attack or I'm going to attack. That is a promise. I don't know where
yeah.
from, but that's going to happen. So those two skills are absolutely mandatory now.
Yeah. I realized that the other questions that the ladies had, we already covered earlier, but they all had comments just saying how much that they enjoyed the clinic. So you guys did a great job from our perspective. So
Awesome.
thank
So
you
good.
guys so
Well,
much.
we had an amazing
It was an
time.
amazing group.
7 of you were incredible. 7 of 8 of you.
Poor James. He's just thrown under the bus every time.
I used that stupid joke yesterday. We had to repeat it. No, we were, like we said, in clinic too. Yesterday's every clinic is amazing, but like the more engaging you are, and you came,
Yeah.
and you are all 4 or 5 plus into 5-0, and that, like what Jill said, like that sometimes creates this. I'm sometimes don't need everything you have to say to us in clinic, and the higher level, like we kind of are almost ready for you to not accept much. But you all were so humble, and I truly mean it. As good as you all were, you were more humble and willing to experiment and taking it all in, pushing back on some things, which is always
It's
fun.
good. It's
Right.
good. It's
Yeah.
good to push
Yeah.
back.
We are all students of the games, that group that we had, at least the 5 ladies that I know. We love to study and learn the game. So this was just having a different perspective on things was great. And most of us are also instructors, or
Right.
coaches. So it was good to have some things that we could take back to our students as well.
And
So
you can tell Emer, like, because she wrote on your thing that she was
yeah.
intimidated and she thought I was going to be all crazy because of social media. But tell her, I almost said that. I swear I almost walked up to her and said this to her. I was intimidated by her in the beginning. I really was. Like, I thought she was going to be tough, and it was like I was, and she was bigger teddy bear than any of them. Like,
I
so
know.
it was
And
so
right,
fun.
because she starts laughing at you right off the
Yeah.
bat, and you try to get her to tell you what she was laughing about. She's like, nope,
No, I was
not
like,
telling you.
oh no,
You're
we're
like,
not doing this already. You're already
I
upset.
know. She's laughing at me.
I know. If I could put something on my Christmas list, it would be having Emer's crazy hands.
Yeah.
Left hand, right hand, both
Left
hands.
hand,
Left hand,
yeah,
right hand.
yeah. By the way, like I would still put on my Christmas list having her hands when they're in her injured hands are faster than my
Injured hands are
healthy hands.
faster than most.
She's
Oh, I know.
bananas.
I mean, when she first hurt her right, when she couldn't play with her right anymore, and she just was playing with her left. I mean, it was just like you couldn't. I was playing a match against her, just like wreck, and I'm like, you're better with your left hand, non-dominant hand, than I am with my right
It's
hand.
crazy.
Crazy.
It was fun.
So to wrap things up, well, first of all, the next time I'm in California, because I think I told you guys I'm up in my whole family, my sister and I married brothers, and so our entire family, my in-laws, my sister, and my husband's brother, and my parents, they all live in Los Osos County.
Oh, wow.
San Luis Obispo County.
Super close.
So next time I'm there, I'm going to definitely come down and visit you guys.
Please
That'd be
do.
awesome.
Yeah.
We'll make sure she's not here. We'll just make sure she's not here.
Actually, she and I already discussed when you were going to be out of town. So I knew.
You are deadly.
I know. That's right. So what do we have to look forward from you guys coming up?
What do we have? We have South.
Well, you've got your second book that you guys are going to start working on.
The partnership book is just so exciting. It's almost done.
I'm excited.
It's almost done. I'm just kidding.
Oh, wow.
Just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. She hates when I say
I was
that.
like, wow, you guys are busting
this. Yeah, no, he likes to announce things on social media. I'm like, wait, what? No.
Yeah. Here, announce something here. We need a sound bite.
Yeah.
Our third book.
Give us a date.
Yeah, so we've got our book that we're working on, work in progress. We have our clinics. So I think we have about one clinic a month for the rest of the year.
And then we have some fun speaking engagements. I think we're gonna do 2 for sure at the end of this year, maybe a third one, and then all of next year we're gonna start these new type of format speaking engagements where we, we're gonna go to pickleball clubs and speak to an audience just on stage about mental performance and take Q&A, and then the next day we're gonna have a big clinic for the entire club and kind of run through like that. And that new format's super exciting that we're ready to kick off. We're going to do one in Arizona this year, right? And one in Florida. So that's also coming down the pike that we'll shoot more details about. That's super cool.
Awesome. Yeah. Keep us posted on social. And if you come back into this area again, hopefully you guys will come and see me.
For sure.
Awesome.
Do this again.
For sure.
Thank you, Michele.
You guys are amazing.
That's awesome.
Thank you guys. Okay. So that is it for us. And we want to thank everyone for tuning in and for hopefully getting some great information from these two mindset gurus. So make sure and follow them on social media and check out their book. So thank you again for watching Mommy, You're Embarrassing Me. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Peace.